Good afternoon and welcome to CGL 1690 AM. My name is Michael Brody. I'm joined today by Shane Simmons. Welcome to episode 55, I think, of Cinema Smackdown.
I don't know, all our numbering is different now. I'm trying to bring our numbering into a line in our two different online forums for past episodes, and it's a hardship.
Trust me, I've got an exact number. I believe it's 55 this week.
Yeah, we count from different points. I count from when I started filming this for YouTube, and you count from the coup.
That's correct. I count from when I started running the board and totally changing the format. That seems logical to me. Different version of the show equals new version of the show. At any rate, we are here today to finally wrap up after
18 weeks solid.
18 solid weeks. It's always fun when you come up with a concept for an episode and realize, I might be able to get 2 shows out of this. And then you are 4 shows in wondering when it will end.
Well, I think you miss the important factor here that we are both blabbermouths.
That's very true.
And we cannot shut up about movies to the point where we had to start a whole radio show just to give us an excuse to get together in the same room and talk about movies more than we do on the phone.
That's very true. So today is part 4 of the most underrated movies of the decade. Today we will cover 2016 and 2017, which is the end of this particular chapter because last year, in excruciating detail over 4 full episodes, we covered the year 2018, which included all the best films, but also all the most underrated. So for further following of this topic, direct yourself to the CJLO website where I will have a 10-part article about what I consider to be the most underrated films of this last decade, including 2018 and 2019. And in a couple weeks, we're going to do our 2019 movies, which I assume will take a few weeks as well. So
yeah, we should get to that by the end of the year.
Enjoying list after list after list. If you're into writing stuff down, this is the show for you. So we are into 2016 here. We're doing the same thing we did in the previous weeks. We begin with whatever I consider to be the most underrated movie of that year and then move on to runner-ups and notable suggestions. I have talked about this movie a lot in the last year or two. I think the most underrated film of 2016 is the movie Frank and Lola, which was written and directed by Matthew Ross, stars Michael Shannon and Imogen Poots. Here is my rewritten version of the synopsis. As per usual, I read synopses of films and think, this doesn't have anything to do with the movie I watched, or it doesn't convey enough information, or it conveys far too much. So here's my version. Frank, the chef, meets Lola, the woman with a complicated past. What follows is a tale of love, sex, obsession, betrayal, and just possibly revenge. So that's my weird way of putting it. At first, when I saw this movie, Frank and Lola appeared to be a quaint, unassuming drama, but it quietly sort of transformed into a film noir as I was watching it, which I really liked. It isn't an overt film noir, it's a subtle movie. I've mentioned this before, this is the movie that made me realize I have a secret crush on Michael Shannon. It's not so secret anymore.
No, the restraining order came in, last week, I think?
It's not the first restraining order. That's the real problem. Here's how I see it. Michael Shannon had been cast as a villain so often that I never even realized how relatable a leading man he had a potential to be. And this was the film that showed me that. As the unusually calm Frank, there was always something behind his eyes in every sequence, this sort of unbridled fury just waiting to burst. And this movie has so much tension in it when I was watching it that I was sort of knocked out just by that fact. It is a very short film. It is 88 minutes including credits, and rarely is a movie this short satisfying to me. But this film does everything I need it to do. The thing I like to mention about Frank and Lola is that it received virtually no recognition whatsoever. Nobody has ever mentioned this anywhere. I've never seen it on a best of list. I've rarely seen anybody write anything about it. It kind of astonishes me. I mean, it is undeniably well made and extraordinarily well acted. And I can't imagine it's for everybody, but I always thought it at least deserved to be mentioned. And I think if it's your type of movie, it will be one of the best films of that year, and if not, just a really well-made drama. So there you go. I think it's still waiting to be rediscovered at some point. What about you, Shane? What have you got for 2016?
I have a question.
Alrighty.
Which is it true, the rumor true, that you own that full-body rubber Zod cast of Michael Shannon from Batman v Superman and spoon with it at night?
Well, much like the Adrian Veidt gold statue in the Watchmen series, the rubber Zod that I own does contain the living Michael Shannon inside.
Oh, that's cool. That was a surprising bonus. That
It was a pretty hefty eBay win. So.
He's doing it as like a performance art a la Tilda Swinton in a glass box type of thing.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. But
he's just doing it for you, though.
I can see the fury behind the eyes of that Zod.
So, the film I want to mention is a lesser-known James Gunn project.
I swear to God, I thought you were going to say James Bond.
Yeah,
Go on.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, all the Bond films are now lesser-known because lately they're...
Give us the title so that I can read my version of the synopsis.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you have it on your list, too. Yeah, The Belko Experiment.
Yeah, here's the synopsis I wrote. In a twisted social experiment, 80 employees are locked in their high-rise corporate office and ordered by an unknown voice coming from the company's intercom system to participate in a deadly game of kill or be killed. That's not an awful summation. Actually, I think I mostly cribbed that from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. Tell us about the Belko experiment, so I don't have to.
Extremely violent, very funny, pitch-black comedy. I consider this sort of level of violence to be a form of slapstick comedy. And, yeah, it's just... there are many films like this featuring, here's a cast of characters, and now they're going to pick each other off until one is left standing. We've seen this in Battle Royale. We've seen it in many rip-offs of Battle Royale, including that thing called The Hunger Games, and, yeah, a lot of lesser films. They tend to be lower-budgeted, limited set, closed little bottle episodes of things. Here's a cast that we're introduced to. Who are you rooting for? Who's going to be surprised when this one gets kicked off, or when this one buys it in the harshest possible way? You'll cheer them along. You will be horrified when some of your favorites go. A lot of fun. One of the best one of these I've ever seen.
It's a head-explodingly good thrill ride. I actually call this movie 100% pure dumb fun.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even call it dumb. It's a popcorn movie, certainly, yeah. But it's a savvy enough one. It's not a slaughter fest for the sake of being a slaughter fest.
I don't know if I agree with that.
There's a certain there's a certain intelligence when it comes to approaching the corporate mentality that is at the heart of this. So we have there's even a class system within the building that this takes place in. We have the corporate elites. And the maintenance people.
Don't try to throw a message under this. You're going to scare people off.
No, well, I'm just saying. I'm refuting your point that it may be dumb fun because I think it's smart enough fun.
It's very smart. Gunn wrote a wonderful script that he originally intended to direct, but then he got all these Marvel properties and he passed it along into the very capable hands of Greg McLean, who directed Wolf. Oh, what is that one? It's not Wolf Lake. It's Wolf.
Oh, Creek.
Wolf Creek. And all the Wolf Creek television adaptations and things that he also spearheaded. He's a very good and interesting thriller creator.
Yeah, it's certainly a film that James Gunn would have shot himself back in his Super days. The film Super.
It's very much like that.
But, of course, now he's too busy making a mint, getting fired, and then being rehired to make a mint again.
That's correct. I fully, wholeheartedly endorse the Belko experiment as... if I can just watch something tonight that's going to be fun and is going to make me really happy, this kind of movie, it's hard to beat it. But, it is pure exploitation.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
As are many of our picks.
True. My first runner-up for best movie of 2016, most underrated that is a lot of these are what I still consider to be the best films of that year, but I always try to focus on what was nobody talking about. Apparently this movie got a lot of acclaim outside of North America, but within North America, virtually zero. It is a film called Brimstone. I take it you have still not watched this.
I have still not watched this.
You are a monster. Here is my one-sentence synopsis of Brimstone. A very hard movie to sum up. A triumphant epic of survival and a tale of powerful womanhood and resistance against the unforgiving cruelty of a hell on earth. Now, not a lot of story points in there, but this is not a movie that you should really know the plot of before you watch it. I will say that this movie destroyed a friend of mine recently. It completely annihilated
or destroyed a friendship.
Yeah, we have not spoken since. It really didn't make him very happy. This movie, I will fully agree, has a heart of pure darkness. I would call it a pulp western. It shows unimaginably horrible characters doing things to sweet, decent people, which is very rough. It's full of cruelty and selfishness. I will say that for those looking for a different sort of cinematic experience, this is an answers first, questions later sort of chronology when you watch it, which is movies that I find very interesting because it keeps you guessing about where things are going and also where they came from and also people's motivations. So it's a very special film. It's 2.5 hours long, Brimstone, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a magnificent masterpiece. It's made by a guy named Martin Koolhoven, and the really interesting thing was when he brought the movie to North America after it had screened in Europe and festivals and done well, there was a threat it would be recut. And so in order to ensure that people could tell the difference between his cut and whatever the North American distributor did to his film, he put a little, whatever the thing is when you put your own name over a movie. How do you, well, like John Carpenter, how do you put that? Call that? Like an author's credit.
Yeah.
So he did that, and so when you watch the film now, over the title it says Koolhoven's Brimstone, which is extremely funny to me, but it was only there in case there was a different cut, which never happened. Ultimately, the distributor was like, "No, this is pretty good."
Yeah, usually you have to be a real name to get your own name over the title.
So finally, I'll just say Brimstone is an epic film, which is nice to run across those every so often, and that, as a word of warning, the trials that the main characters suffer through in this film are astonishingly rough. So I recommend this.
So once again, we're recommending a film for the 1% of the audience who can handle it.
It's a rough movie, but it's also gorgeous, and it spans such a distance and an amount of time and character work, and it is kind of an amazing movie, and that's about it. It is completely underrated within North America, at least, and we haven't seen a lot of it. So we're going to take a quick break and come back with more thoughts on 2016, and then we will zip into 2017 and hopefully finish it by the end of this episode. I'm a whole 7 seconds ahead of where I should have been to start the ad, but I just saw it coming and I was like, I'm done with my thoughts. Do I really want to fill 40 more seconds?
Yeah.
I think we're playing an ad for a show that already played right now.
No.
This is the third week that I've had the same schedule for the ads.
Mm-hmm.
It's behind the scenes for your YouTube listeners.
Right.
Alright, we're almost back. Oh wow, this ad is rough. It's scratchy rough.
Tune in to Transmission, post-radio noise to guide you through this dying world.
Gee, optimistic.
That's a bold statement, this dying world. Sounds like something I would have written, but I would have maybe added another sentence after.
As long as it's a upbeat show.
And we're back on CGL at 1690 AM. This is Cinema Smackdown. I'm Michael Brody, a local trivia host and sometime film critic, joined by Shane Simmons.
What do you mean sometime? 24 hours a day.
It is merely the blood that flows through my veins. And Shane Simmons, local author, and sometimes bon vivant.
And by sometimes we mean never.
Sometimes can include a 0.000 something percentage.
I had a moment yesterday where it cracked a smile.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, I broke my face.
Yeah, we're back with our completion of the most underrated films of the decade. We started off in 2010. We've made all the way up to 2016. Today I talked about Frank and Lola being my favorite, most underrated film of that year. I mentioned Brimstone. We're on to you, Shane. What have you got for me?
I'm going to hit you with one that you forced me to watch.
Always the best way to say
Clockwork Orange style. Strapped to a chair with my eyelids pried open.
Uh-huh.
And you said, you might get a kick out of this. And sure enough, yeah, I got a kick out of it. I don't think I've heard anyone mention this film, because no one gives a crap, because it is a very small little piece of crap movie that stars a massive has-been.
It's made with a handful of coins.
Yeah, about that. It was made with a budget of bridge tokens.
Exactly.
And it is the Dolph Lundgren extravaganza called Don't Kill It.
Yep, Don't Kill It. The very short description of this movie is, an ancient demon terrorizes a tiny Mississippi town.
The premise is it's a malevolent force that possesses people, and the basic premise is, if you kill it, because it'll do terrible things, then it possesses whoever just killed it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to deal with that way.
It's a high concept.
It's a high concept, but lowbrow film. Dolph Lundgren staggers his way into this and swaggers around and says some lines that are sporadically funny but never terribly well delivered. He's not a fantastic thespian.
He seems a little drunk in most of this.
Yeah.
It's kind of a later Rutger Hauer starring type of
Yes,
movie.
very much so.
Hauer
Yes.
also did a lot of these little horror and strange movies where he would show up, usually, I will say this about Dolph Lundgren, at least he keeps up his exercise regimen. Near the end of his career, Rutger Hauer was obese in some of his films, which is a bit staggering when you know you're looking at the guy from Blade Runner.
Yeah, they had trouble stuffing him into that coffin for the Sisters Brothers.
Oh, dear.
But God, this film is... It's trash, but it's so much fun.
Yes.
Another
Killfest movie.
It's a Killfest movie, but it very much feels like it's not as good as, but it feels like it could take place in the same universe as the Evil Dead films.
Yeah.
It has that sort of swagger to it, that sort of attitude, that sort of...
Nowhere near that level of quality.
No, God, no.
It is a beautifully made, zero-ish
But
budget film.
when crazy stuff is happening in this film, it's really effective.
Yeah.
There are moments... the whole opening sequence is fantastic and brutal. And there is a massacre scene later on where the thing is switching from body to body because everybody's killing everybody. And that scene's wonderful. And there's just enough roadmap milestones of, that was great, and I'm with this film right to the bitter end. And, the bitter end is coming pretty quick because it's a short little film.
Yeah, it has a reasonably satisfying ending, too.
Right.
It has a lot of really good...
In a world of horror movie schlock,
yeah.
This one is in the upper ranks of just something that was truly inspired and a lot of fun. A lot of mischief, a lot of mayhem.
I want director Mike Mendez to just keep getting whatever tiny amount of money he needs to crank out really good idea films like this. He's the director of a film from a few years earlier called Big Ass Spider, which is not a masterpiece, but does stand quite a bit above most giant animal movies or giant bug creature films. It's just got a better sense of humor than the rest. He's a very smart guy when it comes to doing B movies, I guess.
Yeah, the world needs more people who are willing to shoot low but do it in such an intelligent, fun way that they end up making a better genre film than some of these $100 million crap fests.
Indeed. I've got a film I really enjoyed from 2016. It's an odd one. It's called Miss Sloane. It stars Jessica Chastain. It's directed by John Madden. It's an interesting film to me more than anything because it's an Aaron Sorkin movie, even though Aaron Sorkin didn't work on it. You watch 10 minutes of the film and you go, oh, I'm watching an Aaron Sorkin movie. This is an episode of West Wing taken to an extreme. This is a a sports night or.
So is it all people walking and talking and going, yeah, the thing, yeah?
No, but it uses every other trope he uses. It's just something about the pacing, the character developments, everyone is a little bit smarter than they really would be in reality if they had to deliver this kind of information this quickly. And the premise of Miss Sloane is this. When Elizabeth Sloane, a formidable DC lobbyist, takes on the most powerful opponent of her career, she finds that winning may come at too high a price. It's a gun movie. It's a guns are bad / guns are good movie, depending on who's arguing it. And I will say that I really, really enjoyed the tone of this film, but it does not exist in reality. The things that people say and do and the way they argue policy, it's exaggerated to a real extreme. So it's a very enjoyable film, but if you watch it with the mindset of, well, how realistic is this? It is not. It's not it's a fiction, complete and utter fiction. It has very little to do with the way that anything ever gets changed, but it is a very entertaining, boppy little film in terms of.
So in a sort of West Wing sort of way where you go, wouldn't it be great if things actually work like this?
Yes, it's a lot like the TV show The Newsroom.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Same idealism, same
Not
characters.
the Ken Finkelman one.
No. Although that one has its own version of, a heightened universe. At any rate, I really like Miss Sloane. Do you have any other... sorry, last thing. I really dislike Jessica Chastain.
Yeah.
Whenever she's playing someone that we're supposed to be sympathetic towards, but whenever she plays a cold, robotic person, I find she's perfect.
It is her wheelhouse.
And boy, is she exactly right in this. She is that person. She's a near emotionless lobbyist. All right. Anything from you, Shane?
It was a thin year for me, so I'm gonna throw it back at you and say, if you have anything else, because I have nothing else that
ones.
Screams to be mentioned.
Here's a movie no one has ever talked about, at least in my research. A tiny film from 2016 called Slash. Slash referring to slash fiction, which if you don't know what that is, this movie is a crash course on the concept of it. Slash fiction, generally speaking, is when a fan takes a property, as an example, Harry Potter, then chooses characters from Harry Potter and writes short stories where they have sex with each other.
Yeah,
so
although
that's what slash fiction tends to be.
Already in the year since then, that's already become referred to now as shipping, as in relationshipping.
Yeah, you're going in another direction. So
okay, fine.
I'm just going to stick with my definition of slash.
All right.
Which is a very specific kind of fan fiction. So someone made a movie about this, and the premise is this. A lonely young man is surprised to learn that the slash fiction he's been writing might appeal to a larger audience than just himself. After being encouraged by a new female friend, he sets out to a convention to meet other like-minded fans of the genre. Here's my simple review of the movie. I think it's very sweet, it's unassuming, and it's not afraid to tackle the subject of alternate sexualities, but it's pretty much the only film I've ever seen that doesn't for a moment feel like it's trying to push an agenda. I actually thought it was lovely. So, there you go. Slash is a really sweet little film that no one will ever see. So take that as one of the most underrated films of that given year or this last decade, because it has had relatively nothing said about it. So there you go. That's Slash. Well worth your time. We mentioned Don't Kill It. I will end on a movie written by a Montrealer, not remotely made here. It's a very Hollywood film. It's called Morgan. Morgan isn't unseen. A lot of people have seen it, and most of those people said it was terrible. So all the reviews for this are so negative. Morgan is written by Seth W. Owen, who is, I believe, is from our fair city of Montreal. And it's directed by Luke Scott, famously of the Scott family. He's one of Ridley Scott's kids.
I can't keep track of them all.
There's a few.
And they all make films.
A few of them do. Very sporadically. That's the thing. They don't make movie after movie.
I have a theory that there are now as many Scotts as there are Coppolas.
Possibly more. None of them are quite the Nicolas Cage, though, of that family. So,
they can only hope.
Tony Scott may have been that person. So Morgan is a movie starring Kate Mara and Anna Taylor-Joy and a really large and interesting ensemble cast. Here is the very short synopsis of Morgan. A corporate risk management consultant must decide whether or not to terminate an artificially created humanoid being. I walked into this movie and just sort of it's got that horror movie tone, which it is. It is ultimately a horror movie, but Morgan has something kind of special about its structure and the way characters deal with each other, and it has an awful lot of good little scenes. There is several actors have what would arguably be cameos in this film, where they sort of wander into the movie, do their moment, and either get killed or wander off. One of those is Paul Giamatti. Paul Giamatti has one of those ultimate perfect sequence cameos in this. He's brought in for a very specific reason. He acts his heart out for about 10 minutes, and then he's no longer important to the film. And the movie is filled with little moments like this, really satisfying, cute little things. But the whole film overall I enjoyed. I think the thing that keeps people from enjoying the movie Morgan to some extent is that at the beginning of the film, the character that's introduced, the title character of Morgan, is a humanoid that has done something terrible, but it was kind of an accident, and they're trying to decide whether or not to destroy her. And the movie seems to keep arguing, wait, maybe she's redeemable. Wait, maybe she's redeemable. To the point where I think it loses some people. I watched the film as, no, this is a horror movie, and we are watching a slow decline towards a terrible end. And I just liked it. But I find that people who have hope when they watch this film come away a bit aggravated. So I think it all depends on your point of view. But I really love that movie. And again, I feel like it had no love out there. Every review I've ever read for this was negative. And I thought it was a pretty unfairly maligned film. So there you go. It was underrated. We have managed to get through 2016 with a minute and 15 seconds to spare before the half-hour point. Which makes me really happy.
Too bad 2017 is going to take us 6 hours to talk about.
Let's find out. I have a few here. Yeah, I've got a lot. Do you want to kick off 2017? You haven't talked in a while.
Yeah.
I will quickly mention before you jump in that you're listening to CGL at 1690 AM. Our show is called Cinema Smackdown. We are running down the most underrated films of the decade, and we have landed on 2017. Take it away, Shane.
If you told me one of my favorite films of the year would be an Anne Hathaway kaiju film, I would say you're sounding a little crazy there. However, the director has done excellent work before. I believe this is the same guy who did Time Crimes. Mm-hmm. Also a very smart science fiction film, and this is a very smart science fiction film, although it is about people who are a complete wreck. Mm-hmm. Anne Hathaway plays a hot mess who has so burned her bridges that she ends up back in her hometown, tending bar and working for Jason Sudeikis. Jason Sudeikis initially comes across as an old friend, nice kind of guy, and then you increasingly find out he's a bit of a monster.
Sure. And
sure enough, as evidenced recently, he is the despicable, reprehensible, and irredeemable human being who punched Baby Yoda. Mm-hmm. So, to hell with that guy. I will join the Twitter mob sending him death threats for punching Baby Yoda.
Exactly. Just so you know that you did not fully manage to pass into 2017. That is a 2016 movie. So thanks, Shane. We could have been out by 2:30.
Yeah,
but we're not.
we have debated the merits of the of release dates.
I go with what's written on IMDb in the little brackets next to the title.
Yeah, I'm sure you also fact check on Snopes. So, go straight to hell, sir.
I'm going by the IMDb dates. The end.
Are you going by the IMDb Film Festival dates? So
I'm going by the date in parentheses next to the title. We have to choose something as the mark of how we make these calculations.
Okay, well, you're clearly correct, and therefore we're done talking about this film, because,
No, you can talk about the film all you want. I just wanted to mention we have not ventured into 2017.
No, we've called a rest to 2016, so I will say, I would have recommended Colossal, but, clearly Clearly, it's the wrong year.
Falls off the
so,
map.
yeah, just a misfire there.
No, I don't take...
Please regale us with a 2017 film.
I don't take offense at your choice, only that I was pointing out that our show, which I was so happy had crossed the line, is, we're a couple minutes into the next half hour, and we're still trapped in the previous year. So that means...
It's like a time loop.
We can do 4 more episodes about the most underrated films of the decade. It'll be great, rather than wrap it up today. My most underrated film of the year, I will take it, you still have not seen, is Wind River for 2017.
No, I still have not gone
you
around to it.
unconscionable monster. Because now I have to be so careful when I talk about it. Which I would have been mostly anyway. Here's my quick review of Wind River, which I consider, despite... No, don't get me wrong, Wind River wasn't unknown. It is not a movie that didn't get noticed. But
because everybody loves Jeremy Renner films.
But Wind River falls into what I consider like, this is too good to have not been bigger. Which may or may not be a reasonable justification for an underrated movie, but it was by far my favorite film of that year, and when you hear what my runner-up is, you go, wow, you like something better than that? But for 2017, Wind River is a movie about a veteran hunter who helps an FBI agent investigate the murder of a young woman on a Wyoming Native American reservation. That is the simplest plot of this film. Wind River is the first real movie directed by Taylor Sheridan, who's written several big films in the last 10 years, but he finally took the reins of really directing a big piece. Wind River exists in a very bleak world. It is an unsafe environment on every level. The entire film is discomforting. You feel like every character in this is a potential target at some point. And I don't want to spoil this movie. If you've seen his other work, the guy wrote Sicario and he wrote Hell or High Water, which are both well-made, smart movies. Hell or High Water got multiple Oscar nominations. And I don't think it's 1/10 as good as Wind River is, but it got all the accolades. I just think Wind River was a more, at least as far as I'm concerned, a bleak and perfect masterpiece. It just left me haunted for months after seeing it, and an incredibly engaging movie. And again, Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen, it's not my cast I would have picked, that's for sure. There's a lot of supporting parts in this that are well done. There's kind of just nothing wrong with this movie as far as I'm concerned. Not everybody's favorite movie, as it is a little rough, but a very smart, moody piece. My runner-up I'll just maybe throw to you, which is my first runner-up for 2017 is Brawl in Cell Block 99.
Yes.
And when you compare anything else to that and say you liked it better, it's really making a statement as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, I forgot that was also on the list. That is my favorite movie of any year you care to pick that it came out.
Right, exactly. So Brawl in Cell Block 99, the simple synopsis is a former boxer turned drug dealer, drug runner. A former boxer turned drug runner lands in a prison battleground after a deal gets deadly. That's the terrible synopsis for that movie.
The real synopsis is, oh my god, I can't believe that's Vince Vaughn.
Yep. It's a reimagining of Vince Vaughn to such a degree that going forward, I just consider him to be a completely different person.
Yeah, to the point where it's like, oh my god, all these years I didn't realize he was a real actor.
Yep. Well, he's got smatterings.
He has smatterings, but he's still always that Vince Vaughn guy,
the smarmy
right?
Improv comedy.
This for me is sort of like, even though it's a completely different performance, but it's sort of like, I cannot reconcile that it is Nicolas Cage in Raising Arizona.
Right.
Because that's not the Nicolas Cage we've seen in everything else.
I mean, we hadn't until Mandy, where he gave the same performance. At any rate, one thing I like to mention about Brawl in Cell Block 99 is that it has 3 distinct acts, and each one of those has a completely different tone. Specifically, the first act is a little bit of a drama with some pulp elements. The second act, though, is such a cut-and-dried, almost documentary-style experience of entering a prison system. So much of what you see is realism, and the way the characters speak to each other it's nowhere near as heightened as the first or third act are. The movie just gets really calm for about 45 minutes. This is the first S. Craig Zoller movie that really took advantage of, I'm just going to make this movie as long as I want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's about 210 or 220. And boy, does he ever go forward with that into Dragged Across Concrete, which is over 2.5 hours, I think. So they're just... I just want this guy to have as much time as he needs.
Isn't it delightful, though, seeing a 2.5-hour movie that knows how to pace things correctly?
It just doesn't have as much padding.
Unlike, for example, maybe a recent Star Wars film that I could mention.
Or a recent Tarantino movie. So yeah, Brawl Cell Block 99, again, like many of our recommendations, absolutely not for the faint of heart. It is a rough movie on a number of levels. But it is...
Well, as with other Craig Zoller stuff, it is slow burn, character building stuff, and when violence happens, you feel it, because you know who these people are.
Yep, that's a great review. You feel it because you know who these people are. I couldn't be better said. What else have I got here? Do you have anything else specifically for...
Yeah, I do. Unless, of course, you...
I've got many more, so...
unless you somehow on your paper have that this actually came out in 1946.
It probably did.
Yeah. So I wanted to mention Brigsby Bear.
Sure, I don't remember what year that's from, but I think it's probably there-ish. Go on.
Am I allowed to?
You're always allowed. Don't take my little
because
comments as...
this was the good Mark Hamill film that came out in 2017. Not that atrocity that was known as The Last Jedi. He is a loving father raising his son as best he can in this post-apocalypse type of scenario. Brigsby Bear is the name of the children's programming character. This the kid he's raising is basically an adult man-child at this point, who has grown up watching videotapes of this obscure, and I don't want to spoil exactly how obscure, but it's an extremely obscure children's program featuring a guy in a bear costume called Brigsby Bear. And inevitably, reality as this, adult man-child understands it is challenged. Mm-hmm. Things are not quite as he was led to believe for the majority of his life.
Yeah, Brigsby Bear is an awesome offbeat indie film. It has
yep.
a great mood.
I showed it to a bunch of people. It was an absolute home run.
Yep, it really makes me want to see whatever that guy will do next. The Saturday Night Live dude who stars as the lead and I think wrote the movie.
Right.
Whose name Kyle?
Oh
something.
yes, right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't got it. My notes are not in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's Kyle Mooney.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Saved it.
Yeah. Apparently these days you're not allowed to remember any Saturday Night Live cast member unless her name is Jay, or was it Dave, whatever.
I like
that
what? You can't even remember what
I had his name when I began that sentence, and by the end of the sentence I totally lost it.
Another movie that is listed as 2017, although I think it came out a bit later, but it's the 2017 numbering is I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore.
Yeah.
Which is, again, one of those movies that it kind of doesn't matter what year it came out, it is arguably the best movie of any year. It's so good. The simple synopsis for I Don't Feel at Home is, when a lonely woman gets burgled, she finds a new sense of purpose by tracking down the thieves alongside her obnoxious neighbor.
And the obnoxious neighbor is a kung fu wielding Elijah Wood, who's a bit unhinged.
Yeah,
but everyone in this film is a bit unhinged.
The lead actress in the film is Melanie Linsky.
Who you may remember as the other girl from Heavenly Creatures.
I've always liked her, but I've never loved her as much as I loved her in this movie.
Yeah.
It's very quirky, it's super engaging, and it is one of those great offbeat buddy pictures. They are a strange pair that I wanted to watch 5 more adventures with them.
Yes. It truly is a buddy adventure film.
Yeah, a deeply satisfying movie.
Yeah.
I would say that.
Also one of the great crime films of recent years.
Yeah, it's still a black comedy.
Yeah,
like,
we should mention...
pretty serious crime.
We should mention this was written and directed by Macon Blair, who is known as the main collaborator with Jeremy Saulnier, who has made films with him like Blue Ruin and Green Room.
Yeah.
And I will watch absolutely anything those two ever do because I'm just, an instant fan of their work.
Well,
And,
there are several more Macon Blur movies you have not yet investigated.
well,
so
I will get to them.
They're on the pile.
They're all on a pile, yeah.
But none of them hold a candle to I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, which I feel is nearly dead even, with Green Room, which I like more, but Green Room is rough.
Oh, yeah, this is
a happy movie.
It's a happy movie, but again, slow burn, and when the violence happens, it's horrifying.
I've watched I Don't Feel at Home in This World 3 or so times out of pure pleasure, whereas I've seen Green Room once.
Yeah, I've seen both of them about 3 times each. So.
Green Room is not a movie that I'm excited to watch again. I really love it.
You should, though, because that one has a lot of complexity that you will miss in one viewing.
I mean, it has a lot to do with who your favorite band is. It's the band that they're arguing about at the beginning that goes all the way to the end.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's funny.
But I would also point out with Green Room that the mechanics of how the criminal organization that they run afoul of works is interesting and subtle and is worth seeing the film multiple times to fully appreciate what a fine job they did with that.
Indeed. My next movie from 2017's most underrated is a film called Bodied, which conceptually could not have appealed to me less. This is the premise. A progressive grad student finds success and sparks outrage when his interest in rap battles as a thesis subject becomes a competitive obsession. You kind of couldn't pitch me a movie I would less want to watch than a movie about a character like this delving into the rap battle community. But about half a minute into this film, I realized how well made it was, how well written it was, how smart a movie this was going to be. And it kept promising things and then over-delivering. It is so smart and so boundary-pushing that I'm kind of in awe of how much it accomplishes. It's also... it's challenging. It's gonna ask anybody, are you okay with this? Sorry, too bad. We're going forward. It's a kind of amazing film. It's a particularly good movie if you are not into the subject. I think if you are into the subject, it might over spoon-feed you because it walked me into this subject through the eyes of someone who had no understanding of it. So they explained level by level how they get to where they are, and it really worked for me. So there you go. It's a rap battle movie for people who never want to see a rap battle movie. But it's an amazing movie by Joseph Kahn, who a year or two earlier, well, a few years earlier, made Detention, another movie that people have a really rough time with.
Including me. Yeah.
For good reasons. They're challenging films. I will argue that Bodied won't push your buttons as much as Detention probably did. And with that in mind, let's do a quick ad break and see if anything that we play right now pushes your buttons. I got burned to watch Bodied, and shockingly, he really connected with it. And it features nothing that on the surface he would want to watch. So I was really happy that he enjoyed it. He had a similar reaction of, this is way too smart to be ignored.
Mm-hmm.
So we got like 14 minutes. Let's see what we can get through. Because I definitely have several more. How about you?
I have stuff I could talk about. I'm not...
I don't want to dominate.
No, it's there's a couple.
Honestly,
I'll mention, I don't have tremendous amount to say about them, but it's
Sure.
enough that they're worth
Well, you
mentioning.
can be quick about them if you want. I've got 4 more.
And then you can tell me how much you hate them.
You know, you're welcome to shit on the stuff I mentioned as well. I notice it's a bit one-sided in that respect. And we're back on CJLS 1690 AM. This is Cinema Smackdown. We're running down the most underrated films of the decade. We've reached 2017. We are at the tail end of this little list.
And you were just about to tell me how much you love the Book of Henry.
I would do a full episode on how much I, quote-unquote, love that movie, like Iron Man 2, and like that movie whose title I can't never remember about Love that featured Olivia Wilde 2 years ago. It is one. Book of Henry is one of those. You did everything so wrong in this, so colossally wrong, that it is the car wreck I cannot take my eyes off of. Maybe the brightest one I've ever seen. Book of Henry is a film they should teach in film school in terms of good job at doing it all wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
it's also really competently made.
Exactly what I was about to say, yes.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's so competently made that when you step even an inch back from it, you go, what were you thinking? Well, what he was thinking was, I don't really want to work in this town again. This is the movie that will derail me forever. That is not a recommendation, by the way.
It is to mainstream movie making what Strangers with Candy was to after-school specials.
Yes.
That is like, here's a thing without any sort of recognizable moral compass. You think you know what it should be, and yet you're watching it going, why are you going there? What are you doing?
Right. Well, let's not go too far down that. We can't always do a full Book of Henry episode. Give me another 2017 pick that you think is underrated.
Well, 2017 was a surprising year for a subgenre that I quite enjoy, which are getaway drivers. And, of course, everyone remembers Baby Driver as being the big one of those. But I would point to a lesser-known, largely forgotten, perhaps justifiably so, but it's stuck with me. And this was a Netflix original called Wheelman.
During the break, you said, I look forward to hearing how you crap on my choices. Consider this fully crapped on. And the floor is yours.
Do you really need to drop your pants right here, right now, and start squeezing one out?
It just felt right.
Please use my page of notes here to wipe yourself. So Wheelman, the thing that I like about it, and I've seen a lot of getaway driver type movies. The thing that grabs me with this one is the novelty, and it is a novelty film, definitely. That the entire thing takes place within the car. You are inside the car for the entire movie, as Frank Grillo deals with a job gone wrong and the fallout from that, and trying to resolve the problem that has been created. And it took a while to realize, they're never getting out of the car, are they? So it's kind of a one-set movie, the same way that Ryan Reynolds Buried in a Box. What was it called? Buried, I believe, that film? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, mind you, we are driving around a lot. We get to look out the window, so it's not quite so claustrophobic. But I appreciated its discipline in being able to tell this story from within such a narrow confine.
As far as I was concerned, it was a torture test of no good ideas and a premise that worked for 15 minutes and then was just excruciating. I think it may have something to do with the fact that I find Frank Grillo not that compelling, generally speaking.
I see a lot of potential there.
Okay.
He is by far the most memorable Marvel Cinematic Universe villain. If you blinked, you missed him, but he was a player there for a few films.
My opinion of Frank Grillo is he is the living embodiment of the Punisher in everything I've seen him in, without exception. He's just, there's that Punisher again.
Certainly would have been reasonable casting.
Yeah, but I didn't get a lot of love out of that movie. So, what is it? I will move forward to another movie involving cars and such, which is 2017's 68 Kill, a movie written and directed by Trent Haga, and starring Matthew Gray Gubler and Anna Lynn McCord. Matthew Gray Gubler is from Criminal Minds, and he is this super likable guy. He always plays clever weirdos. In this movie, he's more of a dumb guy who gets caught up in kind of a scam that goes a little off the rails. So the synopsis for 68 Kill: a couple of dead bodies and $68,000 in stolen cash is just the beginning of a road trip to hell. That's a pretty good synopsis for this. It's a straightforward exploitation movie to the nth degree. It's a gun in your face, wad of money in your fist, blood-soaked, non-stop screaming, thrill ride kind of little tiny exploitation movie. That's it. It's just one of the ultimate, you know what you're getting, here we go movies. It's really well made though, and has a great pace. It's just a cute little film. It's a piffle. But I really loved it. But it's for fans of exploitation genre and just want to watch screaming characters fire guns into unsuspecting people's faces. It's quite something. Yeah, a great little movie. That's 68 Kill. You got another one for us?
Yeah, I have another novelty film. This one, tiny little art house, no budget type of an affair. You and Tess discussed it at length on this show about 1,000 episodes ago. Mm-hmm. I had not seen it at that time. I since have. I don't think either of you liked it, mm-hmm. but it was worth discussing. And that is A Ghost Story.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this
Tess kind of liked it.
Okay.
I left the theater angry.
Yeah. This is a film that will try your patience. Because slow pace does not even enter into it. This is paint drying the motion picture. But and yet I found it surprisingly touching.
It has moments.
As far as performances, entirely by a known actor under a sheet with two old holes cut out of it, a la Charlie Brown Halloween Special. That is about it pushes my buttons in that it's a film about loss and the passage of time. Mm-hmm. And this character is stuck in a house watching the time go by for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those, it's like, should I show this to movie night? No, they'll probably hate me for it.
Justifiably so.
Because, again, it's it'll make you long for the rollicking pace that was the original Russian version of Solaris.
Yeah. Look, there's great stuff to recommend within that movie, but the grad student theory of the universe scene is so naive as to make me abandon ever seeing anything by that filmmaker again. That's how much I dislike that sequence.
I went into that sequence prepared to despise it, as well as the pie-eating sequence. Because I had heard about the pie-eating and I'd heard about the philosophy scene, neither of which were anywhere near as tedious and awful as I was led to believe.
Because you could foresee an end to them because you were prepared for those scenes.
Perhaps.
The problem with the grad school scene character thing where he just pontificates about the nature of stuff is that it's fine until the camera pulls back and an entire party of people are listening so intently to this guy. I don't believe for a moment that would happen. I do believe a bunch of people would listen in and someone would call bullshit. And the fact that that doesn't happen makes that one of the fakest moments I've ever seen in cinema history. You're allowed to have this scene be in a film. You're allowed to make this statement, but that nobody has a problem with it. They're all like enraptured by it. It's like, no, that's not reasonable.
But the gritty realism earlier of a mourning woman sitting down crying and eating an entire pie until she throws up.
I did that this morning.
We can all identify with that.
Of course. I'm going to quickly mention my last couple films from that year, as really quickly because we only have a few minutes left. From 2017, there is Tigers Are Not Afraid, which is the movie where someone manages to out Guillermo del Toro in their supernatural children movie. I think this is a wonderful film. Despite having truly atrocious CGI, it is still a valid film. You just kind of have to decide that you're okay with it, bad special effects. But the movie itself is fantastic. There's also Blood Money, which is a nothing, disposable, straight-to-video, John Cusack crime film, but it's directed by Lucky McKee, and it is a cut above the genre. It is definitely a cut above John Cusack's general work these days, with the exception of Bagman. He has not produced anything I've really liked in 20 years.
Yeah, you managed to find two in the past decade at least.
Yep. But Lucky McKee has been making interesting films for about almost 20 years. This is yet another one that's just kind of good. There's something different about it. It's very much a remake or a retelling of Treasure of Sierra Madre. There's money. There's people who want it. They're not against backstabbing each other to get it. And it's just a simple little.
Is the structure like a 3-man treasure hunt type of thing? Because that's
yes, but it's an unwilling treasure hunt.
Okay.
It's one character wants everything, and the other characters are dragged along, more or less. It's a little more than that. It's a great film for what it is. I wrote about this movie recently, and what I said was, somebody please give Lucky McKee a much bigger budget and let him run wild, because as far as I'm concerned, he should have a career as big as Richard Linklater by now. He's made equally interesting, sort of tonally similar movies as far as I'm concerned, but Lucky McKee makes horror. A lot of horror stuff, a lot of thrillers. Linklater makes family dramas and cute films, so he's been... I mean, admittedly, he's probably a slightly better filmmaker, but I still like Lucky McKee. That is what I got. I mean, I can always go deeper. Do you have anything else? We've got about a minute left.
Nothing pressing.
Nothing pressing. Well, finally, I'll mention there is a movie from 2017 called Wild Honey. No one will ever see this movie. It's the tiniest film ever, but it's kind of great in its normalness. It's about a lonely, down-on-her-luck phone sex operator who falls for one of her callers and flies across the country to find and meet him. And it's just this really normal woman trying something a little crazy. The movie is such a straight drama with likable characters that it just leapt ahead of 1,000 movies I've seen as just feeling like it was something. It's just a hangout movie, but a great one. It's called Wild Honey, which is a not memorable title, but it features, what is her name? Rusty Schwimmer as the lead, and she's an interesting actress who definitely needs... She's everywhere. She's always doing tiny little character performances and things, but it's great to see her get a full movie to herself. She's playing a real person in this movie, and that's more than can really be said for a lot of films I've seen in my lifetime. So that is a little film called Wild Honey, worth mentioning. We've essentially come to the end of 2017 with 60 seconds to spare.
And therefore the end of the year. The end of the decade.
Well, like I said, listeners can go back to our 2018 multi-episode discussion. We will be covering 2019 in the near future as a couple of episodes worth. Hopefully next week we'll do some sort of palate cleanser, something a little different. Shane, do you have anything that you want to promote while we're here today?
Yeah, I will say my new collection of short stories, Petty Crimes and Vindictive Criminals, is available on Amazon right now.
Excellent. As always, I am doing 2 shows a week live at 2 venues. On Sunday nights, I'm at Grumpy's, and on Monday nights, I'm at a place called Four Origins. I do a trivia show. It's the best damn trivia show in Montreal, and it is very Googleable. You can look it up. You can find out things about it. You can come and see me and harass me and tell me how much you hate my film reviews, or that you occasionally agree with me. We can both agree how much we disagree with Shane. That's going to be awesome. Anybody who references Ghost Story and Wheelman in one year as good films definitely requires some psychiatric help.
By the way, you're cleaning up this bowel movement you just took on a control council here.
Well, with that in mind, we'll leave you be for this week, and we'll be back next week with a new show. Thanks, everybody. I cut us out at 10 seconds ahead because I'm tired of imagining that the actual recording cuts out.
Right.
It's like, yeah.
1690 AM in Montreal.
My apologies for making you feel like your opinion doesn't matter. Not my intention. I mean, it's effective. But I definitely don't mean for that. Oh my goodness.
Hey guys.
You're
Hey.
back.
Yeah.
Your timing is awesome. Please enjoy this booth.
Thank you.
I put a CD over the time because it's wildly off accurate, and it's
Okay.
more than a minute off, so I just follow
Oh,
this and this. But it's your choice, so I don't have to leave it there.
It's okay.
Okay.
By the way, question.
Yep.
Maybe you have the Wi-Fi password.
I have no idea what it is. Sorry. I would be guessing it's CJLO 1690.